Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to all of our witnesses for being here today, and thanks for what you said. Look, I mean, this is the situation in Afghanistan is obviously it's a huge problem. It's in many ways seems like an intractable problem, but just to agree with Senator Manchin, I think that the people of my state, Missouri, is the state that I represent, and the American people have been really patient. And I hear you counseling patience this morning as if, as if we're just a year or two into this thing. We're almost 20 years into this thing. We spent, a modest investment. We've spent almost $1 trillion in Afghanistan. We have lost many, many lives in Afghanistan. We have been there. It's the longest conflict in our history. And I, for one, still can't figure out what in the world our strategy is there. I don't think we have a coherent strategy. I'll just be honest with you. We've had a succession of American presidents who have promised to end this war. It's not over. I don't see any particular clear strategy there. I don't know what we're doing in Afghanistan. I don't see any reasonable prospect that we're soon going to change course. And I can tell you the people of my state don't either. And they're out of patience. And they're right to be out of patience. And I'm out of patience. So let me just ask some questions in that vein. General Field, let me ask you this. You alluded to this earlier. What if we reduced our troop presence below 8,600? What's the effect on our ability to conduct direct action against al-Qaeda and ISIS? I mean, give me your assessment of that.
This is a great question and sort of dangerous ground because once we start this thing, it might snowball and all of a sudden we're somewhere we didn't necessarily want to be. Having said that, I think it's a question for General Miller. I think he would probably say he can go lower and still conduct the counterterrorism mission. That's my guess. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I think he would say that. The question, really becomes then, it's the CT plus, right? What do you need to maintain access to human intelligence, to the Afghan special operators? What price is the Afghan government going to extract from us to be able to stay there and pursue our own interests, right? It's the plus part of CT. As far as military capabilities, we could come way down. Right? It's just a little trickier than that. But I would just say, if I may, sir, your constituents are not wrong. They're not, but I guess the question I would ask back to them is, does the object of Afghanistan have any value whatsoever? Is it worth a certain amount of money and a certain amount of lives? I guess that's really the question, and that is the question you just asked me.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I think our investment in Afghanistan, I mean, surely we've answered that question, haven't we? $1 trillion is a lot of money. And lives lost, we've spent a lot there. My question is, how are we actually going to adopt a strategy in Afghanistan that will see to our national interests? My fear is we're not yet focused enough on what our interests actually are. I'm not interested in being Afghanistan just to be in Afghanistan, and I'm not interested in pursuing policies that haven't worked. And we've had a succession of administrations over years who have said, this time it's going to work. This time we're actually going to refocus. This time. Meanwhile, China, which is a pressing national security threat to us, growing stronger militarily by the day, China continues to grow in the Indo-Pacific, poses direct threats. We are not postured correctly in the Indo-Pacific. We are not ready to meet that challenge. We are behind the curve. We've got to get ahead of the curve. And the question is, what are we going to do about that, I think. And I hope that you're sensing, I mean, none of you are any longer stakeholders in this. And again, I want to emphasize how much I appreciate your service. This is a tough problem, obviously. I mean, clearly. But I just think that it's time that we communicated that we need a change. General Field, I just want to stay with you for a second because what your testimony has been very interesting. Can I just ask you a further hypothetical? Can you let's imagine a worst case scenario. You mentioned the Afghan government. So let's imagine a worst case scenario. Let's say there's no settlement. And let's say that we do reduce our troop presence below 8,600, just hypothetically. And let's say that the Taliban does expand its territorial control. What would that do to our ability to carry out any direct action against al-Qaeda and ISIS, our CT strategy? If the Taliban expands our control, we reduce our troop presence, but we don't have a deal.
The question then becomes, do we have any secure ground from which to take direct action? The neighborhood is tough. Can we work with Pakistan? Everybody says, no way. I don't know. Maybe we could. We have a lot of leverage, as Dr. Jackson was saying right now. We have more leverage than we did before because of the situation they're in. Could we do it outside the country? I'm not sure. but I'm throwing out that it should be explored. Do we have, would there be any, could we secure, would there be any of Afghanistan still under the control of the government that we could guarantee needs to be explored?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you again to all of you for your service to our country and for being here today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.